Hello everyone, this is Naz Islam and I'm a software developer and blogger. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can connect MongoDB database to your Node.js Express application. So in order to do that, I'll be using the code editor Visual Studio Code here, as you can see on the screen right now. Yeah, this is a product of Microsoft, which is like vastly used for development purposes. It's not mandatory that you have to use this particular software, but it's just one of the preferences of like many developers. Or else like you can use Sublime Text or any other text editor. Just make sure that you are really comfortable using whatever you want to use. Okay, and so for testing the REST endpoints that we'll be creating for testing the connections to our database, we'll be using the Postman. This is a really cool tool for developers for testing many REST endpoints. So really handy, and we will go over them in a few minutes. And yeah, and last but not least, this MongoDB, which we will create a cluster inside of their MongoDB server, and we will connect our application. Start by creating an application. So let me open a new window, and for the application, right, let me create a new folder. Let's call it Node.js MongoDB. So I import the project by just dragging the folder in my Visual Studio Code here. So I just brought up my terminal window by just pressing Ctrl tilde here. So now, as you can see, that I can use the terminal. So let's do let's initiate a npm or like a node project by running this command, that npm init. So this is going to ask you some random questions. You don't have to put like anything specific, just put just keep the default values by pressing enters a few times. Okay, so once you have like completed all the just like kept all the default information, so the package.json file will be created for you. So let's create a new file called app.js. So this app.js is going to be the entry point for our application. So let's bring in our express npm module by import express from with quotes express, and let's use the express by putting in parentheses to instantiate our application. And let's instantiate the port that we'll be using for our application, which is going to be 4000. So now at this point I can listen to our defined port here. And for testing purposes, let's put like console log, and I'm putting a tilde so that I can use the string interpolation. Let me put like server is running on port port. All right, okay. So yeah, so as you can see that we have imported the express library, so we are going to install the npm module by npm I, short for install, dash dash save, so that this creates an entry express in the package.json file and put express. Probably it will take a few moments just to install the express dependency. Okay, so after it's installed, you will see that a new folder has been generated called node modules, which has pretty much like all the dependencies um, required to run express in our applications. So let's check the package.json for example, right? So we'll see that the express has been added to our dependencies list. So one other actually cool thing that so that we don't have to restart the server every time we make a change, and this happens automatically, right? We're going to install the npm module nodemon. So we're gonna do, and we're gonna install it as a dev dependency. So we're gonna put the flag dash dash save dash dev, and we'll put nodemon here. So as you can see that after installing, it will be part of the dev dependencies as the nodemon, right? Okay, so let's have some configurations for the nodemon, right? So the nodemon restartable to be rs, and the delay time for the nodemon would be, let's say, 500 seconds. So what this means is that anytime we can restart manually our application by this command, and after we save any file, so after the 500 milliseconds it will trigger a automatic restart for our server. Okay, yeah, so and actually for for the way we will run our application is this way. So start nodemon app.js, and so yeah, okay, so what will happen is that we will start our application by this command npm start, and as you can see that npm start will run this command, so nodemon app.js, right? So in order to run the nodemon as a script tool, right, inside your terminal, you also need to install the nodemon as a global npm module. So you're going to do npm i-g nodemon. So I have this one already installed actually on my system as a global module, so it may not take a long time, but it may take longer on your system. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. So now if I do like npm start, the application, but it broke, so it looks like that cannot use the input system outside a module. Oh, okay, yeah, so this is happening because is that we are using the ES6 syntax in our import statement, and for this to work we need to specify the type as module. So after we have fixed it, let's, okay, yeah, or you know, like, so this has already restarted, so let's not worry about this, and we can just yeah, we can just test our code right away. So as you can see that we haven't built up any route yet. So in order to check that, let's have a route get. Okay, so I'm gonna spit out a JSON response here. Let's call it like current route to be the route. Okay, awesome. So I save it, and as you can see that it automatically restarted our server. So let's bring up our postman to test this endpoint right now. Okay, so we're gonna do like localhost 4000 and the root. So as you will see that this is giving us a proper 200 response with the current route as the root. So as you can see that our application is running properly, right? So at this point we need our application to connect to the MongoDB database. So we can do this by creating an account in MongoDB. So I have already created an account, so I'm going to sign in, but feel free to click the start free button and just go through the process to create your first account. And and on the process of creating your account, it will ask you to create a cluster database. So I'm gonna just sign into my account, and I'm gonna show you what options we should pick for our free database here. Okay, so I'm gonna log in. Okay, yep. So here you can see the MongoDB portal right now here. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna click this green square box to create our first database here. So okay, so for this tutorial, right, we're gonna use the free database here, and just make sure that everything looks good here. The name can be the cluster 0, or you can change the name as your wish. So I just keep it as default, so I hit create. Okay, yep. So yeah, you can put a username and password. So let me put like a username, and for the password I just hit the auto generate the secure password. So what you need to actually make sure that you have access to this particular username and password, because you will need this specific information when you connect the MongoDB. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to save this information in a notepad, let's say, so that I can access this information later. Okay, I think, yeah, so this should be the default, and you can hit finish and close. Yeah, so this is congratulating me that the congratulations on setting up the access rules. Okay, it's all good. Go to the overview. Okay, all right. So now as you can see that the database has been created for us, and we're good to connect to the database, right? So let's click on the connect button. And as you can see that there are multiple ways of connecting to the database. So what we're gonna do is that for this tutorial purpose, right, we're gonna connect our application and we're gonna do it through the drivers. So let's click on here and just make sure that the drivers are Node.js and the version is up to date. So the second step is install your driver, so that we're gonna do this, right? So let's copy this one, and if we get back to our code here, so as you can see that this terminal is occupied already, right? So we're gonna create a new terminal here and make sure that you are on the right directory. That in my case it's node.js underscore MongoDB, right? And just paste in the command there. And also it's better to have the save flag there, so that this automatically creates an entry in your package.json file. Okay, so once you have done that, let's get to the third step, that add your connection string into your application code. So this is going to be the connection string. So and as you can see that the username and password needs to be replaced after you use the connection string. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna put the connection string, let's call it the db url. Inside course I put the connection string, and let's replace the username and password. So this was our username here, and here's the password here. All right, what we can do to test that we are actually connecting to our database and we can retrieve some information from our database is, let's load some sample data in our database. As you can see that there is no item added to our database. So let's bring in some sample code, like sample data, which we can grab in our application, and through that we can make sure that our application properly connected to our database and we can do some transactions. Okay guys, so as you can see that it has completed importing all the data here. So the current data size is 402.82 megabyte, and we can take a look at the um, current data set by clicking this button. And as you can see that, so there are different databases which are added, and for each database there are different collections. Say for example, for this sample analytics database, there is a collection accounts, there is another collection customers, and the transactions, which is another collection, right? So yeah, so these look pretty good. So let's look at probably any one of these, right? Yeah, so let's take a look at the planets collection. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna make a connection from our application to the MongoDB, and we're going to make a get call to this collection to get to retrieve all these items. So in order to do that, right, let's bring in the Okay, so we have already added the DB URL. So let's also bring in the DB name here, and which is in our case is going to be the sample guide. So let's click on here and paste it here. So what we can do is that let's make a get call, and we're gonna say planets, which should take a request and response object as the callback function parameter. Okay, so since the database transaction is an async call, right, like which may take some time, so we're gonna create an async function. Let's call it Mongo, and the body of the function should be inside of these lines. And also what I'm doing here is that let's just execute it immediately. So we're gonna do let client try. Let's have a catch block for the try, and if there is any error, throw the error. All right, so now here I can update the client to be the Mongo client dot connect to the URL. And here you can see that since this is a MongoDB client operation, right, we want to mark it as await. So what I'm saying is that let's wait for the client to come and only then execute the next line. So let's call it make another constant variable to be db to access the db instance. So we're gonna do await client dot db, and then the name of the db, which is this, and let's call the response is going to be await db dot collection. So what is the name of the collection or here, right? So let's put it a name db collection, which is in our case is planets. Let's bring it in planets. All right, so now we're gonna call it the db collection dot find. So what this is going to do is that find all of the entries there, and I'm gonna cast it to the array. All good. And once we have the response, let's res.json to return the response in our Postman. All right, so after we have created this route, let's make sure that our server has restarted. Looks like it has. So now let's get to the Postman and let's call the planets here and hit send. Run that endpoint. Yeah, and as you can see that we retrieved all the planet information here, and as you can see that they match with the sample data right here. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching this video, and keep watching the following videos as well. So I will be posting a few videos a week, mostly on the different aspects of programming, um, coding, feature development, iOS development, some database work, or some testing. So keep tuned and have a good one. See you on the next one. Bye.